Hey guys, Savage Joy here with Real Progressives. Tonight I am joined by an awesome candidate from New York, District 12. She's a Dem running in, as I said, New York. So we definitely want to give her props. She was recommended to me by a buddy on Twitter, Jay. So if you're watching, Jay, shout out. But in any case, this is Lauren Ashcraft. Her policy platform actually really stood out to me because there was something on it that I've never seen anyone have on their platform, and that is for the decriminalization of sex work. So we'll get to that later, but you guys know I've interviewed over 100 candidates, and I've actually never seen that before. So that sold me immediately. But in any case, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you and all you do for amplifying progressive politics and people trying to change how things are going. So,
Thank you so much. I was reading a bit about, your history, where you come from. So you are a descendant of immigrants. Do you kind
yes.
of want to share your background?
Yeah, I actually thank you for reading that and bringing it up because it actually is a very important part of who I am and what I represent. So, my grandmother is from Japan and she immigrated to the United States when she was 22 years old. She met my grandfather when he was in the Air Force. They had my father, who was born a double citizen in Japan, and the family of three moved over to Mannington, West Virginia whenever my grandmother was just 22. And really unfortunately, and this is also a huge part of who I am, my grandfather, after the Air Force, was a coal miner in Farmington, West Virginia. And unfortunately, in 1968, he was a victim of the 1968 Farmington mine disaster, console number 9. And my grandmother was left a single mother, a new immigrant, really broken English. We love her English, but she still had a very strong accent up until the very end of her life. And unfortunately, she was left single mother with very small Social Security checks based on my 34-year-old grandfather's short work history, and survived because of Social Security. And I am really, really for protecting programs like Social Security because it keeps people like my whole family alive. So she's a survivor and actually an example of what the American dream is. She put herself through evening school to earn her GED and then went to nursing school and worked the rest of her life to earn a retirement. So she is an inspiration, and anytime that I would complain about having to go to school, she would stop me and remind me that she had to work very, very hard to get where she was. And uh, she she unfortunately passed away less than a month ago, and
Oh my
I
God.
was I know it's been awful to fundraise and run the campaign while that was happening, but I was really excited to tell her that I was running for Congress, one of the last things that I told her. And I know that my family in Japan is really excited to see a Shigemi in Congress, which is the family name. So
That's amazing. I'm so
thank
sorry.
you.
She sounds amazing.
Thank you. I actually, I'll actually post a comment on the comment section later. I wrote a story about her, so anyone,
Oh, yay.
yeah,
Awesome.
I love to share her story because she's exactly what immigration stories and the American dream represent. So,
Absolutely. That's awesome. You also were able to, when you were younger, you were able to go stay in Germany with a
yes.
family, which is incredible. What did you learn there? I know you stated in your bio that you did go visit some Holocaust
Yeah.
remembrance things.
Yeah, so I was 17 to 18. That was my senior year of high school, and I lived with a host family in Wolfsburg, Germany. And I was really, really fortunate to live with an English teacher. So anything that I wanted to know, she was able to translate and explain to me, and also kind of reverse explain German grammar, so I could not have lucked out anymore. And then also my host father, who I still call Papa, is a history buff. and and he was really eager to just share world history with me. I was over there while we were invading Iraq, unfortunately. So I got their view of the whole situation and really came to terms with who I am. That was a very formative part of my life, and gained an identity of what it means to be an American in my late teens, and really wanted to make sure that we don't keep going down that same path if I have anything to do with it. So yeah, like you read, I went to places where I never want that kind of history repeated in the rest of humanity. And I came back home and I studied international relations at West Virginia University, and then went on to do a Master of Public Administration, all with the goal of preventing that kind of horrendous stuff from ever happening as long as I have anything to do with it.
Absolutely. So being, so close with your grandmother and going and experiencing that in Germany, how is this affecting you? Just everything going on right now.
So I am, every time that I turn on the news, I brace myself. It just seems like every day we're going more deeply down the absolutely wrong path. And what's happening with families getting separated and being put in cages with totally inhumane conditions at the border. One thing that, and actually we were speaking right before we went live, is in these very dark moments, you actually see, not like you ever want this to happen, but you see the best of humanity coming out and fighting against it. And the Japanese internment survivors, I loved seeing them at the border protesting how inhumanely we as Americans are treating people seeking better lives by entering our country. And I, as someone, anyone with Japanese heritage could have been put in internment camps. If I were alive when that was happening, I was eligible. So I never imagined that this would be happening on American soil. And I am actually organizing a trip. Please watch my Facebook page. We're organizing a trip to protest an ICE detention center in New York. And yes, and actually a lot of the detainees are kept in isolation and inhumane conditions. And we're actually going to visit them and see any way that we can help. And then after, we're going to protest.
Awesome.
Any viewers that are in the New York area and would like to join, I'd love to have you, and stay tuned because we're going to organize the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll certainly share the post. I have a lot of viewers in New York and a lot of followers on social media in New York. Absolutely. It's so heartbreaking, and unfortunately you're starting to see candidates start to care. You know what I mean? Like it gets frustrating because it's like, oh, where were you last year? That kind of thing. But at least it's getting more coverage now. But unfortunately that doesn't seem to have impeded the people who are the right wing who are creating this. What can we do as citizens besides, protesting and occupying what else can we do?
Well, definitely stay in touch with your local to federal representatives. Call, even at the local level, supporting that your city is a sanctuary city, or calling your representatives and making sure that ICE does not use public facilities like DMV to find people just seeking a better life and harass them and put them in these inhumane conditions. So calling your representatives, supporting, making sure you vocalize support if they are against ICE, and if they have not said anything about what their stance is, then ask for it and persuade them and tell them how you feel. Because I know, as somebody who is running for office, I do pay attention to, and I know that we'll talk about the decriminalization of sex work later, but that is one thing that I have gotten feedback about. And the right kind of elected officials should absolutely be listening to you. So call, vote, make sure you're educated about where people stand before you vote for them, and run for office.
Absolutely. And I digress a little, but you guys know I have receipts for everything. And let me just tell you guys, there's a certain guy named Bernie Sanders who voted against the creation of ICE, and then people like Kamala and Warren and such voted for ICE to be created. So score Bernie once more.
Absolutely.
But in any case, yeah, that's something that we need to absolutely prioritize. Now, a lot of candidates do say that they want a path to citizenship.
Yes.
So now, God, I've seen stories as that people wait as long as like 7 years to become a citizen. What would that involve as far as an expedited path to citizenship?
Yeah, so unfortunately, also, as you know, the pathway to citizenship also involves a lot of working with attorneys and paying legal fees. We need to totally simplify the process so that any person can fill out the paperwork themselves without having to hire someone for multiple thousands of dollars. And 7 years is entirely too long. I feel as though we have this xenophobic focus of preventing people from crossing the border, when instead we should be focused on welcoming and facilitating legal immigrants. So that means making the process much more easy to understand. And also, 7 years is really a long time. I filled out my passport application and got that back within a month. If something like that is possible, I would love if that kind of process took a month as well.
Sure. I mean, it's all electronic. All they do is
Yeah.
type your social and information in the computer. You know if someone should be allowed in or not. Like, it's not. And then they have really like nowhere to go for the 7 years while they're waiting and stuff. And it's just, it creates austerity, and it's heartbreaking.
Absolutely. And we want people like, I keep going back to my grandma because I'm so proud of her, but we want people like her that come here and study and work. And she was proud to be part of the society and proud to call herself an American. And we want people that are excited about becoming citizens to be able to do so without having to hire an expensive attorney.
Absolutely. Someone, William, made a comment that D12 looks like a tough district to win. How many people are you running against?
At the moment, I think myself, one other challenger, and Carolyn Maloney, the incumbent, are filed with the FEC. But there's still a year until the election, so others may join. But it is a tough district, and I'll tell you why. I am running to get big money out of politics, which sounds grandiose. I get it. However, our district is drowning in corporate PAC money, and I am running a 100% grassroots, people-powered campaign. And what that looks like is I have raised, and this was a lot of calls and two fundraising events and about 3 meet and greets and nonstop work. We raised $10,000 as of yesterday, which I'm really excited about. Yes, I'm really excited about. It's a drop in a bucket compared to I think as of the end of last quarter, my opponent, the incumbent, had raised almost $400,000, much of which was corporate PAC money. So that is one thing that I'm fighting against, that kind of strong influence on politicians' platforms and decision making. And I would love to go into what that looks like. If
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so what corporate PAC money and super PAC money do is they're thrown at politicians, and because of a ruling Citizens United, there is no limit about how much of that money can be thrown at politicians. But individual contributions, a person like Joy, if you donated the max that you could give to any candidate, it would be $2,800 for a federal candidate for the primary, and then you could do another $2,800 for the general election. However, corporate PACs don't have a limit. I can't tell you why. It was a huge loophole. And what that looks like is private health insurance companies donating to politicians who they have wrapped around their fingers and who are preventing stuff like single payer Medicare for all, which I strongly support, from getting enacted. And why do we have a huge mass incarceration epidemic in the United States? Private prison lobby donations to politicians make a huge difference. And those private prisons want their prisons full because profit. And then I work in banking regulations. I work in JP Morgan to actually make sure that they're following every single current banking regulation that there is. And it scares me that politicians, such as my opponent, voted to deregulate what is preventing another 2008 from happening. And we are well on our way. This is just my personal opinion, well on our way to another economic disaster. And again, I keep saying, like, not on my watch, because Dodd-Frank was enacted in 2010 because of the 2008 economic disaster. And that regulation it's so frustrating because it prevents banks from participating in knowingly risky lending practices. And that's exactly what happened in 2008, is banks were playing with money that they didn't have, actually. And whenever all these loans defaulted, there was nothing there. So who actually ended up paying for that at the end of the day? Us. And I would really like to prevent that from happening. It is my ultimate goal. If I'm elected to Congress, I would love to be part of the Financial Services Committee. And that committee is supposed to act as ensuring that consumers and taxpayers are the priority and are not footing the bill of big banks and decisions that they're making that are making us as taxpayers carry the risk. And unfortunately, a lot of the members on that particular committee, my opponent included, accept PAC money from banks. And they voted to roll Dodd-Frank back in 2018, which is really scary to me. So I would like to use my experience in the financial sector to prevent future generations from graduating into the mess that we as millennials graduated into. I think what we have to do as humans who are students of history, like my papa in Germany always told me, you have to study history so you don't keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. And that was not even that long ago. We graduated into it, and it's so bad that in another world, not in this world, but in another world, it's almost funny that we're repeating history so closely after that happened. So, see what I can do about it.
Absolutely. I think that's getting big money out of politics is the biggest problem, hands down, because just as you said, that's why we don't have Medicare for all, private prisons, all of that. It all comes back to big money. Um, let's see. Jeffrey would like to know if you support a federal job guarantee.
I do. I would like to. I know AOC does support that. I do support a federal job guarantee for sure. The details of that, I would need to. I want to research that, and then I actually promise that I will display that stance on my website.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw that you have let me see the direct quote, renewable energy by 2030.
Yeah.
Federal job guarantee is pretty much the only way we can get that done, because there are millions of jobs that could, take place if we had that federal job guarantee. It would change lives for sure. Stephen, she's running in New York. Sorry. So yeah, federal job guarantee is something that is absolutely imperative to actually get green energy and everything, to fix infrastructure, anything like that. Bernie has it on his platform, Alexandria as well. So yeah, this is something that a lot of people would benefit from, especially even homeless people. They'd be able to get jobs, ex-convicts, they'd be able to get jobs, plus wages would be regulated, so there wouldn't be, anything below $15, all that fun stuff. So as far as green energy and climate change and everything, what's another aspect that you're focused on?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, because of my grandfather and how he passed away in a coal mine, I grew up against coal and against completely dirty ways to generate energy. And another thing that I really want by 2030, and yes, it's possible, is single-use plastic ban. And again, if you hear politicians say it's not possible or anything's not possible, just follow the money and see who donates to them. Because there's some industry that's concerned about the profit, and it is possible to turn our environment around so that we're no longer actively destroying it every single day.
Absolutely. Let me see what else you have. You have term limit to Congress.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I've heard other people speak on this as well. What do you think the term limit should be?
Yeah, so I want every member of Congress to have a maximum of 12 years. So for House of Representatives, that would mean 6 terms. And for the Senate, that means 2. And that, in my mind, gives you one president who's elected twice, which is usually what happens, and then 4 years of transition into the next presidency, whether that's someone outside of your party and you want to make sure that your policies don't get flushed down the toilet, or if that finally is someone in your party, then you want to really partner and amplify in those 4 years. And then in your final year or two, if you're really passionate about seeing what you've set out to do through, then you might start eyeing up someone that you feel could carry on your mission, and you could endorse them, but also let the people vote to see who they want to replace you with. So what I'm actually interested in is ending this idea of career politicians. And I also don't want to be one. I want representatives. And there's a huge distinction between the two. For example, the average person does not live in DC and New York in this district, and they don't have two homes, and they don't have an entourage and people that order your lunch for you and print out your notes for you. That kind of life for 12 years probably changes a human. And I want someone who hates taking the subway as much as I do, and who gets stuck under the ground and is late for work because the MTA isn't working, and someone who, like myself, just had to move out of an apartment because it was infested by cockroaches because it was right next to the garbage dump next door, and every time I closed the door, strange dust fell from the ceilings. So when it was time to renew the lease, it was not going to be renewed by me, and I had to find somewhere else that I could afford, and it was really hard in District 12. So I want someone who has to think about how they're going to pay for their rent as my representative, and that's me right now.
And you do have affordable housing on your platform. Now, there was recently, last month, there was a victory in heart of New York, I believe, with affordable housing.
Yes. So actually, after we got rid of the IDC in New York, we've been able to enact some pretty awesome progressive policy in New York State. So I know that a lot of activist groups have been very, very active in Albany and getting messages across that the working people in the state are struggling and we can no longer be ignored. And I'm really excited about where this was going. And you mentioned wages before. And yeah. I also wanted to say, as a millennial, I want to tell you guys about something that I'm really excited about. And I've been talking with my team about. And it's something called the Even the Playing Field Act, or it will be. We're drafting it right now. And this Even the Playing Field Act would require employers with 250 employees or more to disclose in job advertisements a reasonable salary range that someone applying to that job and offered that job would be offered. So something that would help with is, for example, I've applied to a lot of jobs and found out they wouldn't pay my rent at all. And I would not have applied to them in the first place. And you know that it takes a lot of time to tweak your resume for every single job and write the cover letter. And oftentimes you never even hear back. So there's a lot of time wasted. And also, you know what? Sometimes you wonder when you're employed if the person sitting in the cubicle next to you that was just offered the job that has 10 years less experience is getting paid double your salary. So I am a huge intersectional feminist, and the idea of helping to shatter the glass ceiling is really exciting to me. So that's something we're working on, and please stay tuned about it.
Absolutely. I was laid off in March, and my word, I worked full time trying to get another job. It was crazy. It was only 2 months, but it felt like a year. And yeah, I went to this job. I thought it was cool. I sat down with her and she hired me on the spot. And I was like, cool, how much is it? She said $11 an hour.
Yeah.
I said, I haven't made that in over a decade. No, no, thank you. So
exactly.
It's just a waste. So yeah, I think that's an incredible idea. I think that's really good for women, people of color, or people with experience. Really, probably advantageous for pretty much any reason. As far as single payer, Well, actually, back to the subway. You did make a joke about the subway. Now, you were actually talking about disability accessibility.
Yes.
And I noticed that as well when I go to the city.
Yeah.
What's your plan as far as that goes?
That's a great question, and this is very personal to me because on one side of my family is Japanese immigrant, and on the other side of my family, my grandfather was a quadriplegic, and that happened one day when he fell, and it was not even a very long fall. It could happen to any of us. And people with physical disabilities are often totally ignored. And our public transit system is one of the spaces where people with disabilities are ignored. And I dream of strengthening the Americans with Accessibility, the ADA. I dream of strengthening that. Because right now, you, as someone who needs a wheelchair, you might have to go 10 subway stops out of your way to exit if you require an elevator. And I think the statistic is about 25% of subways have elevators, about half of them don't even work. So if you require a wheelchair or even crutches or have a stroller in New York City, you have to rely on specialized transportation to get you around, which costs more money and already puts you at a huge disadvantage in terms of earning a wage and having even access to the same kind of opportunities that physically able people do. So because my grandfather was a quadriplegic, and I watched my grandfather's house get it became more accessible with a lot of investment. They had to redo everything. And I want to strengthen the Americans with Disabilities Act to make sure that public transportation and public spaces are for the public. And that includes people with physical disabilities as well. So there needs to be a plan that cities such as New York, which I know this is on their radar, but it should have always been on the radar. The ADA is 29 years old, which is 1 year younger than me. So the fact that we're just now starting to make sure that more and more stations have elevators is ridiculous to me. And it shows you that it's an ignored population, unfortunately. So the ADA needs to be strengthened to ensure that absolutely no new public transportation is built that's not accessible. And if there are public transit stations that are not accessible to everyone, then there needs to be a plan in place in order to change that within a reasonable period of time, maybe 5 years. I would like to talk with experts to see what's possible and reasonable, but there needs to be a plan in place to ensure that that is changed very quickly.
Wow, I maybe it's just Pennsylvania or maybe it's federal, but I know here it's illegal to have a restaurant without a ramp. So
Yeah,
how? And then that sounds illegal.
I
Maybe,
know.
who knows? I don't know, but that's crazy. I
New
can't even.
York, in New York City, there's actually a video of someone with a wheelchair showing how difficult it is to get around, and he's just trying to go to Brooklyn to get a bagel, and he finally gets to this stop and can't even get in the cafe because there is not a ramp and it's a step up. So it's horrendous that the biggest city in the United States is not accessible at all. And it should be illegal. Absolutely.
Wow. That's some ableist shit if I ever saw something. My God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the whole thing is it could happen to any of us, just like I learned, unfortunately, very early on. Um, you're fighting for everyone when you're fighting for one specific population that's left out. Any of us can be part of that population at any time. And it's really unfortunate that people with disabilities have been ignored to this extent, especially in the biggest city in the United States.
Absolutely. You also talk about legalizing cannabis.
Yeah. Yes. So, you know, we have this huge opioid crisis, and we have a lot of people that are looking for ways to deal with physical pain and emotional pain. And cannabis is a very reasonable approach to treating that. Um, Again, follow the money. Who wouldn't want something that uh, is an easy fix to, uh, you know, falling down the stairs and bruising yourself or twisting your ankle? If you need something to take the edge off, who wouldn't want you to have access to cannabis? So again, follow the money, and I want big money out of politics. And another thing that legalizing marijuana should do, first and foremost, because it's going to be a huge amount of money once it's legalized, that money, first and foremost, the profits, the taxes, need to be spent on reintegrating the people who've been wrongfully imprisoned back into society, training them, helping them find jobs, and their records need to be expunged immediately. So while it's a really great thing for a lot of people, the fact that there are people sitting behind bars right now because of smoking a joint is really, really sad and disturbing. And the good that comes out of legalization should first be focused on those individuals that are still paying that price, who are
Absolutely.
majority people of color, unfortunately. So I think the statistic is people of color are 4 times as likely to be arrested for marijuana related crimes. And we need to spend the resources from legalization to help them and get them back into society and get them equal to everyone else.
Right on. And not just do they get caught more, like do they get arrested more, but they end up serving longer sentences by far.
Yes, yes. Everything is just really inequitable, and it's horrifying. There is such a thing as privilege, and as someone with Japanese heritage, I am white passing, and with that has also come privilege for me, and that will never go ignored. Whenever I see statistics of people getting arrested and serving longer sentences at much, much higher rates than people who look like me, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. You do have criminal justice reform on your platform. What other do you? I know Bernie just came out with last month a an amendment to end cash bail. Is that something
Yes,
you would be open to?
absolutely. And I am a huge fan of Tiffany Caban and really excited about the campaign that she ran. And her ideas for criminal justice reform, I think, are amazing. For example, yes, ending cash bail, which, by the way, because you don't have the cash to pay, doesn't mean that you should be sitting behind bars whenever a billionaire would be walking free. Absolutely inequitable. Um, and other things that I'm passionate about is ending for-profit prisons, getting big money out of politics because private prison lobbies donating to politicians disgust me. And another thing that I'm super passionate about, like you mentioned before, is decriminalizing sex work. And that is one thing that I view every single human as equal. Sex work is work, and decriminalizing sex work actually makes the work safer. And it allows people who are in dangerous situations to pick up the phone and call the cops and report someone who is abusing them. And I am also not a fan of involving any kind of religion in politics. And I feel that the fact that anyone would view a, a real profession as something other than it is because of these fake religious morals that we like to pretend we have as society. And I am a member of Middle Collegiate Church, but with that also comes my belief that religion should not inform any kind of politics other than viewing all humans as equal. So sex work is work, and that's also a huge part of criminal justice reform.
Absolutely. And you're totally right. There would be less violence if it were legal. There would be women would feel safer about calling police. There would be, I mean, it would just be safer in so many ways. And it's one of those things that it's like, if you don't want to participate, then don't, but don't like
exactly
infringe on someone else. Like, yeah. That impressed me that you have that on your platform, because as I said, I've interviewed over 100 candidates and I've never seen that on a platform. And it's very important, especially in New York or a city like that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let me see. You do have one of the most important things, free and fair elections.
Yes.
So New York is a doozy. You have to register like 10 months in advance. It's bananas.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that I'm still sad to this day. I was unable to participate in the 2016 primaries because of that. Because I knew that you had to, at like almost 200 days in advance, change your party. Although New York State recently changed that in their voter reform laws that were passed in this state. So, yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, or at least that's a bill. Yes, I think that window of time is going to be something like 30 days now. I have to double check, but it's much smaller.
That would be normal. That would be that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But we need open primaries, damn it. You know,
I agree with that for sure.
And then New York last time, they even admitted they purged over 130 voters off the voting rolls, and people were showing up and they were being told, sorry, you were switched to Republican, even though they had no idea what they were talking about. And people in lower income neighborhoods were showing up to vote, and their polling places were mysteriously closed. You know, it was just such a mess. And this voting is too important to do that this time around.
It's so important. And I do have some additional ideas about how to make voting more equitable. And I love the idea of automatic registration once you turn 18. And I love the idea of open primaries so that what happened to me in the 2016 primaries doesn't happen to anyone else. We want people to participate. The people who don't are the ones that have made that silly legislation that prevent people from voting. And also, I would love if every single registered voter gets mailed a mail-in ballot with return postage. And I know, as someone who is campaigning right now, one of the biggest things that people running for office spend money on is just getting your name out there. And flyers and things that hang on doorknobs and mass mailings and paying for ads, that kind of stuff costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not that we have that. But something that I think would be wonderful and would also help to educate people as they're filling out their mail-in ballot would be if in every single one of those packets, there's a list of who's running in each of the categories, a summary of what they stand for and where they could go, like the website, to find out more information about what they stand for. So you don't have to guess about who someone is and what they represent as you're even checking in the checkbox. You have that information available and you have at least summaries about everyone and you have ways to find out more. And I hope that that would increase voter participation and also increase knowledge around voting and maybe even passion.
Right on. Yeah, I saw the cover photo on your Facebook page. You have Isaiah
Yeah,
James.
yeah,
I had him last week and I just want to squeeze the heck out of him.
yeah.
He's awesome. I love him.
Yeah,
He's great. I just
he
want to
is.
like squeeze him. That's why this show is hard sometimes, because like I meet these people and I'm like, I really want to vote for them. This sucks. Like, what? Can I just move in with you for a month, reestablish my location? You guys have a lot of good people in New York. A lot of good people running.
It's gonna be a really fun year and a really fun 2020. And the challengers are on fire. And I am just really excited to be part of this group that's taking on the establishment. And it's crazy. This is not my platform would take more than me. It's going to take a whole class of people that are passionate about the same things. And we're well on our way to having that. We just need people like the viewers to keep on supporting these campaigns and show up to vote and make sure that you amplify people like Isaiah and this class that is taking on lots of corporate PAC money by not taking any, which I'm really excited about.
Yes. I know a lot of us here, a lot of me and my viewers, a lot of us just kind of won't vote for anyone who takes corporate money, period. So, you know, a lot of us, that's the first thing we look at. So
yeah,
it's definitely the overused term, but the litmus test to many progressives. So I love the fact that you guys have a coalition, because that's a beautiful movement when you see people working together. I noticed that last year in Las Vegas a lot. I interviewed a lot of candidates who all kind of hung out together, which is awesome. That's how it should be. We all have the same goals.
Absolutely.
Did you want to leave our viewers with a message? What would you like to leave them with? And then also give your I saw Jay posted your website and your Twitter. But yeah, if you want to give all that fun stuff as well.
Yeah, so just a little summary is my huge passion is getting corporate and super PAC money out of politics. And yes, that would take ending Citizens United. But in the meantime, there is a class of challengers, progressive challengers, that are not accepting a penny of that big money. And make sure that you watch their campaigns, what they stand for, what they believe in, what they represent, and support and amplify and vote. Because the more politicians and elected officials that make it into office that have those morals, the weirder it's going to be that there's one person sitting in the corner that gets a whole bunch of money from big real estate. So it's going to keep getting weirder, and then we're going to have a huge class of elected officials that are going to push for reversing Citizens United. And I really appreciate you having me on the show to amplify that message and make sure that you, every time you vote for someone and look into their platform, also look into their campaign finances and who donates to them. Is it people? is that corporations makes a huge difference as to who's influencing them. And me, because I do work for a bank, I am very passionate in particular about banking regulations and making sure that we're not setting ourselves up for another 2008. Something that I am very passionate about is being part of something like the Financial Services Committee and actually representing the people rather than huge corporate donors that I'm supposed to be keeping in line. So definitely, I would love you to keep watching our campaign and see where this goes together. And I know we went from 2 volunteers to 60 this past week and ended up hitting our financial goal of just crossing into 5-figure territory, which is super grassroots. And our donations are on average $38 a piece, which I'm really proud of. So anything that you can do to get the word out, super appreciate. And also, like you mentioned, Isaiah in this class of or coalition of other progressives running, anything you can do to get the word out about them as well. It's for the movement. It's not for the person running. So I really appreciate you looking into the whole coalition of us.
Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for coming. Jay, if you're still watching, thank you so much for recommending Lauren. I count on you guys because I'm in Pennsylvania here. I don't, I know Pennsylvania politics, but I get, some great suggestions from you guys. You send me names and of people to look into, and it helps me tremendously. Thank you guys so much for watching as usual. Rokana actually reached out to me. He wants to come on a 4th time. I have no idea why. It always surprises me. I don't get it. I'm like, yes, Ro, let's come hang out in front of my bureau again. All right. But yeah, he wants to come back. So who am I to say no? But yeah, I have some awesome candidates who I'm working with to figure out a schedule right now. So those are coming up as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and please share, please follow Lauren on Twitter or Facebook, and keep the suggestions coming as well. Thank you so much again, Lauren. Best of luck with everything. I think you're going to do awesome.
Thank you, Joy. And also thank you to the viewers. I just want to say thank you for caring about progressive policies and progressive people trying to get into government so that we can change all this bullshit that's happening. So I really appreciate you having me on the show today, Joy. Thank you.
Absolutely. And check out the comments as well after the show, because there's a lot of good comments.
Awesome.
So that'll be some inspiring words there.
Oh, you guys, thank you. You're going to make me cry. Thank you.
They make me cry quite often. Sometimes because of sweetness. Sometimes, no, I'm just kidding, you guys. Thank you again. Best of luck. Thank you guys for watching. Much love.
Thank you.